Well, hi, my name is Ral West, and I'm the owner and founder of Ral West Living the Dream.
And you had a crisis in your business early on that you had a strong experience, and I want to hear about it.
Yeah, in our primary business, which we ran for 25 years, my husband and I, we had lost the primary source of revenue for our business. We were doing a scheduled charter air service between Anchorage and Honolulu, and the carrier that we were using to get people across the Pacific pulled out of the market, and we had no way to get people to Hawaii. So we sat down over lunch one day and said, what are we going to do? Should we just close the doors? And I think both of us just really thought about it and dug deep. And the answer that came to us was, no, we need to do this. We have to provide this service to the people of Alaska. They need a way to get to Hawaii. It's our sun, sand, and surf destination. We need it for the R&R. And somehow we have to provide this service. And so we did. We, at the time, were taking cash advances on our credit cards to make payroll. And we just kept doing it. And lo and behold, an opportunity to charter our own plane fell into our laps. And my husband did the negotiations, and we started doing our own charters. And that grew. And at one point, we even put my husband's mother's retirement account, who was a school teacher, and we pledged her retirement account to secure one of the charters. And if that wasn't scary, and my husband was highly motivated to make sure that we sold every seat on those planes so that we didn't lose her money. So I would say that we have had some very strong guidance and very good fortune.
How does that guidance come to you? Is it intuition? Is it just a nudge or an idea? Is it a voice that you ever hear?
I don't think it's an audible voice, but it's definitely a knowing. And I still use it to this day. That was many decades ago. And I still look for guidance. I do a little prayer and say, tell me what I should do. And in my current business, I know that I feel moved and guided to provide a service to entrepreneurs who are maybe struggling with just the burden of running a company where they have to have their fingers in all the pies, and they're tired, they're worn out, and they don't spend enough time with their family and with their friends, and they don't really have a life. Their business consumes them. And I know how to get them out of that. And it seems like no matter what, I need to I need to provide a voice that can give them those options and tell them how to get out of this and live the life that they're truly meant to live.
Well, don't hide the secret from us. Where do you start when you meet somebody who is in this rut where they're spinning their wheels, they're exhausted, they're not seeking that recovery, they're under a lot of stress, they feel like they're being chased by a tiger? Where do you
Mm.
start with them?
The very simplest thing to do is to take stock of how you're spending your time. What is it that is filling up your days and nights? And let's break that down and create some systems. Sometimes it's as simple as writing down processes and procedures and then outlining what it takes to get the job done, and looking for automation, looking for ways to simplify the tasks, looking for ways to delegate tasks, and learning how to delegate properly. I've had so many people tell me, I can't delegate anything because they won't do it right. I end up having to do it over myself. So it's like, that means that you're not delegating properly. Because if you did a good job of delegating, you would clearly outline what it is you want them to do, what a good job looks like, the result that you're seeking at the end, and then you're going to follow up with them and make sure that they're still on track and that they're doing it the right way, but it's still getting it off your plate. So you need to delegate in a complete way and then follow up. And that requires some systems. It requires some thought into, well, what is it that you really want as your outcome? And what steps and what guidance can you give them to get the job done right? and then follow up and make sure that it was done correctly. And then that gives you more freedom. You then have that extra time to do something else, to create another system, perhaps create another process or procedure. And ultimately, you will gain your time back and you're working on your business instead of in it. And this happens over a period of time. It's not a snap your fingers and it's done. It takes some effort and some practice.
Now you're at the phase in your career where you don't have to work anymore. It's an optional thing. It's a passion for you to be able to help these small businesses.
Yes.
If you could rewind the clock and go back to when you were first starting your career and hack your way to the point where you already have all these systems in place in your business where you didn't have to work.
It took me years and years to figure out that this is how you have to do it. And I wish I'd known it from the get-go. I would have saved myself a lot of headaches and time and sleepless nights. So, yeah, it's a matter of creating the systems. And of course, today, systems are everywhere around us with automation. We can use AI, we can use apps, we can do all kinds of things to make things a much shorter time frame in terms of getting things done. Back when I started decades ago, we didn't have that automation. We didn't have computers, so my systems were much more manual in those days. But yeah, definitely, I would orient my business and organize my business in such a way that I didn't have to work quite so hard, didn't have to work nights and weekends and be a slave to my business. Absolutely.
And it was the delegative aspect that you were missing. You just weren't leveraging your time to your employees. You thought it was best coming from you. And along the path, you finally realized, oh, I'm the bottleneck. I'm the problem. Is that like the key thing for most people to realize?
That is part of it. Yes. Yes. And I often was the bottleneck because I
Same.
felt like the buck stopped here, but it also kind of started here. And I needed to be able to let go. I needed to be able to see the big picture of my business. And I was so buried in the details of doing the day to day that I couldn't step back and look at and see what the playing field really looked like. So you have to stop and take that 10,000-foot view from time to time and say, okay, what is really going on? And how do I make this business grow? How can I scale this business? And it usually requires getting help, whether it's a subcontractor, a virtual assistant, having an employee, whatever that is, you need to leverage other people's energy and time to be able to get ahead. So sometimes you'll say, oh, I can't afford it. I don't have the money to hire somebody. But if you don't make the plan, you're never going to get to that point where you can afford to get the help. You'll always stop yourself. So you have to have a clear vision for what your business is and that you have a product that is worth the money that you're charging, and have some faith and some confidence, and then go for it. But build a plan, and that plan includes the systems, the measurements. You have to be able to track your performance and develop reports so that you have a performance tracking mechanism so that you know whether what you're doing is working or not working. You have to develop your team. As I've said, use as many leveraging tools as you can find. Education is one of those tools of leverage. Educate yourself, get mentors, all of that. And create the company culture that you want to live into the future and build everything around that culture. And
I'm curious is there like a software that you love that you would every business that's like, you got to get on Asana, you got to get on Go High Level, you got to use HubSpot. Like what's like your trick, your best system for storing information and for delegating processes and following up?
well, the one that I use and have used for over 10 years is not necessarily the best one, but it just works for me. And it's called Omnifocus. And it's not, among the top 10 of all of these productivity apps, but back when I started using it, it probably was. And now, though, there are so many. You just named several. and there's a ton of them, but find one that resonates with you, that it's easy for you to work with. And you thought about, well, I should change to one of these newer, fancier systems. But then I'm thinking, okay, with the time that it's going to take me to change, that's a huge investment. And is it going to really leverage me that much more? Am I going to get that much more productivity using a different app? Or do I just stick with the one that's working? And so I've chosen to stick with this one because it works really well. And I can't see how changing to another one is going to exponentially increase my productivity.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I use Notion and Coda and Go
Mhm.
High Level. And so it looks like those guys piggybacked off of what Omnifocus had built. These guys have been around for quite some time.
Omnifocus, did you just look
Yeah,
up?
yeah. I'm looking at it right now. I've got to. And they
Yeah,
have Omni Graphel, Omni Outline. They got a bunch of tools in here as well. Omni Labs for data analysis. This is cool.
yeah, they do. And it's all based on projects. So
Yeah.
you organize your work according to projects. And I have got thousands and thousands of projects and steps and pieces in this program. It's everything from birthdays and Christmas to taxes and organizing the reports for my companies and keeping track of everything that I delegate. I keep track of with OmniFocus. There are
Is
people are always telling me, how is it that you never let anything drop through the cracks? You are so good at following up. Hmm, okay, I have a secret weapon.
You mentioned birthdays and Christmas. Did you systemize your approach to birthdays and Christmas?
Absolutely.
What's your secret? Because
Well,
I gotta tell you, I'm like the worst. Okay, I can't say this out loud because my brain's gonna hear me, but I am really working hard on becoming a better gift giver.
well, I'm not sure that it helps me with deciding what to give people, but I have a system for Christmas. I have a spreadsheet that I roll over year after year, and I keep track of everybody that I give gifts to. I put down what I've given them so that I can refer back and say, okay, well, I've already given that
Mm.
person this like 3 years ago. I gave them that, so I have to do something else this time. And I keep track of, whether I've ordered it or delivered it or wrapped it and all of that.
Wow.
And
You got a whole list of just like names with stages of the gifts that they're in with the gift that you gave them.
yeah, and I
So,
code it to where, okay, this means ordered, this means wrapped, this means, received and so forth. It's a spreadsheet. It's Excel spreadsheet.
that's great.
Um, and then the birthdays, I just set up in my OmniFocus. Everybody who's got a birthday in January, let's say, is in there. And each month I go through my list of whose birthday is that month, and I get the cards organized and sent to them. And of course, I use e-cards because that's the simplest and fastest way to do it.
Mm.
And I set them up in advance. So I can program all of the birthday cards for February today. And then that's
Yeah,
done.
smart. So I have a pivot unrelated. You mentioned sleepless nights. And I'm the type of person that if I miss a night of sleep, I'm taking the next day off. I just can't do it. So I become the worst version of myself if I miss like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. So I know this about myself, so I have to plan for it. I got to eat right. I got to have my bedtime routine and make sure that I do the same thing. But one element that keeps people up, obviously, is stress, cortisol production in their body. And we've talked a lot on this show about breathing exercises and meditating and getting into nature. I'm curious what kind of tools you use to reduce stress in your life and to keep yourself, kind of on that focus line so that you are showing up your best and not letting anxiety dictate the decisions of your day.
It's a tough one because no matter how organized you are, sometimes it does get stressful and sometimes things just seem to pile up. So, one of the techniques that I use is something I learned from Robert Kiyosaki a few decades ago. And that is like if everything is just in chaos, it's like a maelstrom, a whirlwind of leaves flying around you. And he said, just pick one leaf out of that cloud of leaves flying around your head and nail it down. Called it stable datum, and just get that and just do that. And then another one. And it's just like, breaking it down and simplifying it doing the piecemeal approach to handling this chaos. And that helps a lot. Just like get some clarity, get some stability in the world around you, and say, okay, then you can prioritize by saying, okay, which of these things are really important? Not just the ones that seem to be screaming at you with urgency, but which are the ones that are really going to move the needle in terms of getting me to that next point. And then you focus on that and just let yourself allow the rest of it to sit.
Last question. What is your secret to a good life?
I think positive attitude is pretty much 99% of the battle. You have to know that you're going to be okay no matter what. And you have to know that the answer will come to you and what you need to do. And you will be taken care of.
Mm,
And
yeah.
have that faith and the knowledge that you can do it. You can do just about anything you set your mind to. I went to Tony Robbins and I walked on hot coals. I didn't think I could do that. And I'm a fire walker.
Firewalker West. I love it.
Yeah.
Ral, where can everyone find you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn that I would love for people to subscribe to. You can find me under Ral West on LinkedIn. And I also have a website, ralwest.com.
And this is Ral's Success Principles. It's her newsletter,
Yes.
published weekly. Go on. We'll put a link to it in the description, but everybody go check it out. Ral, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been the Pulse Ox Podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.